Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Conscious Lovers series designed to supporting you to becoming the powerful and confident lover that the feminine desires. My name is Miko Lau, and I am a men's intimacy coach devoted to guiding men back to their hearts, to reconnect to the masculine core, and to create connections with true intimacy. And joining me today, we have Kevin Orosz, and he is an amazing human being. Amongst all of the great things that he's doing out there as a speaker, coach, entrepreneur, performance philosopher, and many other things, he is so devoted to using his voice and his presence to impacting lives all around the world. And today, I'm so honored to have him join us today to talk about what it means to ignite polarity in relationships. And with that being said, Kevin, welcome to the series. Super happy to have you.
Yeah, Miko, thanks so much for having me. It's really an honor to be here. And yeah, this is a really important topic that I think pretty much everyone on earth is interested in.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that I'm really a core part of the work that I do with men is around the masculine and feminine essence and the dynamics both within ourselves and also within a relationship. So I cannot wait to get started. But before we do, I would love to hear more about your journey, your story. How did you become who you are today and doing the work that you do?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I started as an ordinary man and still am. So, nothing superhero or mystical or mythical other than, being born and raised in Texas, conservative, kind of middle-class family, raised Catholic, inherited a lot of beliefs around sexuality and, desire, and was raised in a home where I didn't have that modeled for me in any way that resembled health. And became very interested in psychology, was an avid reader and deeply interested in psychology and philosophy. So I went on to study that as an undergrad and thought I was going to go to grad school. And actually a huge heartbreak and betrayal in university kind of opened my mind up through pain and my heart through, lack of trust that led me into a lot of, dark places with, alcohol and anxiety and insomnia and just really struggling to understand my place in the world. This basically led me to leave Texas, move to California, where I got a job at a university and entered into music, yoga, martial arts, Burning Man culture, and really exploded my horizons around what it means to be a man in this modern age, and also to really understand consciousness and the journey of that. And so I got interested in Qigong and Tai Chi, and that's actually how I found the Taoist Tantra and through Montauk Chia, and then eventually found my way to the Hindu and backpacked through Asia and became an entrepreneur, a blogger at first, and a yoga teacher, then a personal trainer. And then I found my way into coaching men's work and facilitating retreats. And a core part of all of this was, the work around polarity, around sexuality and Tantra for men to become a master, not just in their career and work and shut down emotions, or not just in athletics or, something physical, but actually to open the heart and learn how to master sexual energy, which is something that it was not given to any of us, right? A proper sexual education of any kind. Most of my life was pain with the feminine and understanding how to navigate that and really get my needs met and also become the best version of myself. So this led me to really start deep diving into coaching men and women and couples, facilitating retreats, and getting very deep into the hero's journey, mythology, and now crypto, NFTs, and Web3, which I think is the next era of that human myth we're telling, which is, we want to be connected at the core of everything. And that's where intimacy comes in.
I'm just having so much fun listening to you share that because there's so much similarities on my own journey as well. Like I also studied psychology at undergrad and then started the philosophy, diving into spiritual awakening. So there's so much similarities here. I love it. But Kevin, why don't you share a little bit about what Tantra is? What does that even mean? Because I'm sure we have listeners tuning in that are from all walks of life. This may be totally new to them. What is Tantra? What does it mean to master our sexual energy?
Yeah, Tantra is simply a Sanskrit, modality. It's really a worldview. It's not necessarily a technique or a tradition. And, the legends go that Tantra actually informed Hatha yoga, which then created the yogic tradition. So, Tantra was practiced by these mystics and these rishis in India and also in ancient China by a different name. And it basically is using anything in the world outside yourself and also inside yourself to achieve union, yoga, right? Becoming one and more connected with life. So it actually has very little to do with sexuality on the broader sense. Now, it just so happens that besides plant medicine, sexuality is probably the most powerful path to reach a higher state of consciousness, deeper love, connection to God, or the ultimate, whatever you want to call it, through the body. And so this is where the sacred sexual practices and techniques come in. And, a lot of this has to do with moving, through sound, breath, energy, movement, and meditation in the sexual space with sexual energy, which actually doesn't even have to involve touching at all. It doesn't even have to involve a partner. It's working with this creative life force energy, which goes by many names. You can call it Jing, you can call it Qi, you can call it the creative force, whatever you want to call it. It's something that is driving all of us, right? Freud called it libido. It's the will to live, the will to create. And obviously that can physically happen when a man and a woman come together, or two people come together and there's physical intimacy that can lead to the creation of a child, or it can lead to the creation of art, business, music, innovation, technology.
Yeah, I like to believe that the experience we have in, like, let's say an orgasm, either with a person or without a person, is ultimately us accessing the true essence of who we are. It's that union with life itself. And it's just so crazy how much a lot of us have not been taught that. And I truly believe there's systematic ways that we are almost disempowered in that sense, to know how much power we have through sexuality and through those experiences. So, Kevin, tell us a little bit about your experience when you first dive into this, because you mentioned how you inherited a lot of the religious beliefs and ideas of what it means to be a man, like all of these beliefs that may have hindered you. What was it like when you started?
I mean, for me, it was quite visceral and intense, because I was taught, raised, Catholic, and a lot of the Christian and a lot of actually world religions teach this, that, having sex before marriage or having sex with an unclean person, or there's all these like distorted, really, I think dark magic, or, whatever you want to call it, consciousness programming techniques that shame the body, right? And tell you that your sexuality, which is completely erotic and innocent, children experience it, animals, it's completely who we are, is bad or wrong. And so, I inherited that and thought that I was going to go to hell or be punished, right? So I was doing everything I could to get around it, but ultimately wouldn't have, penetrative sex before marriage, and was deeply in this. Now, this led to complete, heartbreak, emotional blockages, and just a real body and sexual dysmorphia inside of me. And I completely was torn and in this very weird stage. And this is what led to the heartbreak and, this betrayal energy that entered my life, which kind of woke me up to the fact that, a lot of people on the planet are living in this delusion that their body and their desire and their sexual energy is somehow bad or wrong, when it's actually the most natural thing. So, on my journey, obviously, to be a better lover, as I started to become sexually active, as all men want, I assume, to last longer in bed, to actually overcome, premature ejaculation, which is informed by a number of factors, both health and psychological, use of pornography, use of, these Disney movie, action movie images that we get of what a man and a woman are supposed to look like and what their relationship is supposed to look like, right? And very few of us, I think, had super embodied, intelligent parents that were living in intimacy and communicating well and sexually expressed. I have met some people, but I know I didn't experience that, and most people I speak to haven't, at least fully. So, in that vein, that's how I discovered, the semen retention practices as practiced by the Taoist Tantra techniques, and then getting into yoga very deeply. And I started to understand that there's a whole world of sexual health and, using subtle and vital energies, and also practicing, semen retention, which I think is a massive practice for men. And then learning how to be with the feminine and understanding why it's important to create consent boundaries, why it's important to, create agreements and sync up consciousness in the bedroom in the same way that we would in a yoga class or in a martial arts class or in a meditation or in a long walk through nature. There's actually a dance and there's an energy there that's extremely powerful. And there are techniques and people that have been working with this and understanding it for as long as humans have been around.
Kevin, do you have like a specific technique that you like to guide men that you work with, or even the audience that you speak to, that can be tangible, that they can maybe apply and try like right away? What is something that they can take away from this?
I mean, the simplicity of it really starts with, and I know a lot of teachers that do this with a 21-day challenge of can you, still self-pleasuring, still making love, you can do whatever you want, but the challenge is to not ejaculate, to actually hold your seed. And this is not easy. So it takes breath, it takes awareness, it takes overcoming intense emotion that might come up, any addictive patterns, pornography being one of the main ones, but alcohol, cannabis, tobacco, you name it. There can be so many addictions that come in and actually interact with this. And so, what I tell men is it's very simple. The kind of kit is like, some kind of routine, some kind of cold water immersion, some kind of fasting, some kind of weightlifting, and some kind of nutritional intervention. So for a lot of men, their testosterone or their body's energy is really out of whack because of their diet or their routines. And so those are like the very, very basic kind of starter kit that's going to help men actually start to reclaim high testosterone, high sensitivity, open heart, emotional health, and also learning how to work with the orgasmic energy, because men can be multi-orgasmic just as women can. It's just, again, no one teaches us any of this stuff.
Yeah, one thing that you said that really piqued my interest was how you said, let's say a man goes on this 21 days challenge and they don't ejaculate, and you said some intense emotions can come up. Like this is new to me. So I would love to learn more about how semen retention can be linked to any blocked emotions or unintegrated emotions in the body. How are those two things connected?
I mean, it's some of this becomes subtle, and obviously everyone has to experience this for themselves. But the emotional body, which is our energetic body, emotions hold energy, they hold memory, and your body and tissues hold that. So any experience of rage, shame, embarrassment, anything with sexuality, and actually a lot of our mood and regulation can be tied to sexuality, because a lot of men are releasing their seed to get comfort or to just numb out or actually move their energy without fully embodying or experiencing it, which there's nothing wrong with ejaculation. It's amazing and powerful when you choose it. But if it's your default to offload negative emotion or create positive emotion, this can create some problems. So, I mean, I've experienced this many times, and I know a lot of clients that experience this when they first start to retain their seed. A lot can come up, a lot of stories and stuff from childhood, and maybe intense rage or big anger energy, or some of the depression or stuck energy or the stagnant energy. So you have to learn how to move it in other ways. The most powerful way is going to be well hydrated and well embodied movement of some kind. And this is where I think men should be lifting, because it's just the health benefits and the power of it. It can look like anything. It can just be body weight exercises. It can be martial arts. It can be a sport. It can be yoga. But some way moving your body and really moving the energy is going to be huge. I've also found that fasting is an extremely powerful discipline to actually sit with emotions. And for the guys that are more cognitive, which I think a lot of men are, to actually sit with them in contemplation. This is where stoicism and meditation and these things come in. A lot of men might just need catharsis, though. You might need to scream and cry. You might need to beat a punching bag or a pillow. And it helps to have a men's circle or a men's group to actually help you create context and safety to do that, to do your shadow work, to understand the emotions and actually feel them. Because if you repress them or avoid them, they don't go away. They just become stronger and actually will come up in other areas of your life.
This is so good. Now I've just got all these questions like coming up in the moment as I'm listening to you. And part of being a conscious lover, to me, conscious sexuality is such a key component to it. So when you say, let's say a man is unconsciously ejaculating and using it to numb out or feel any uncomfortable emotion. So when I think of it this way, and I've had experiences myself, like in the past when we get intimate with someone and it's not a very conscious way of engaging in the penetration, the lovemaking. So on a spiritual, like energetic level, if that person is ejaculating, let's say inside a woman, so is it like all these entanglement of these lower vibrational emotions? Is that what's happening?
I mean, who knows for sure, but I believe yes. And, let's just talk about on the energetic level. I mean, there's so much happening, right? And we can talk about subtle frequencies. There's some of this stuff, people might be like, this is bullshit or woo-woo. And like, I used to think that myself. But what's happening in quantum physics, what's happening with the heart frequency and what they're studying with, how cells have memory and there's electromagnetic ties between them. I mean, this is very real. This is physics. Now let's just talk about the neurochemical level. When you are ejaculating, you're creating a massive burst of dopamine, oxytocin, prolactin, all these neurotransmitters and hormones that are bonding you to the person, even bonding you to their pheromones, their scent, their touch, their voice. There's all this deep stuff that we inherit as mammals, that all mammals do, to actually create pair bonding or bonding with, another being. And it's even more intense for women. So for women, the womb can store energy for like 7 years, I've heard, and I don't know for sure, but a lot of these, teachings, especially in these sexual yogas, talk about how powerful it is to actually clear your energy, even from the genitals, from your energetic body, and be very conscious with who you share your sexual energy with. And I think a lot of people that are in hookup or dating app culture, which ultimately there's nothing wrong with it, it's just that just like you have hygiene with STIs and pregnancy, you have to have energetic and emotional hygiene. Because if a man is ejaculating inside of you and he doesn't care for you, he hasn't created consent, or like, he's just intoxicated or, et cetera. And we've all experienced this, I'm sure, for the listeners, you're receiving all that energy and you're holding it in your body. Even if your conscious mind isn't aware of it, you might experience stuck emotions or like weird negative synchronicities, or, all this stuff can happen because that bond is happening at a very deep level in your literal neurochemistry. And I believe on the emotional or subtle energy level.
I just got chills listening to you share that, because again, this is something that most of us have not been taught or made aware of. So the moment when we become aware, it can really change everything, with the love of intention that we bring into engaging in those practices. So let's tie this into polarity. How does everything that we've talked about so far connect to having the dynamics of polarity in a relationship?
Yeah, so polarity is very simple. I mean, a lot of people get confused because, they think that, all men and women have to be a certain way, or that if there's no rules and anyone can be anything. And, that's fine. This works for LGBTQ and any kind of trans or gay couple also. Someone has to hold the positive pole and the negative pole to create magnetism, right? It's very simple. So what does that mean? Masculine and feminine come together. And there's many nuances, but essentially polarity is that highly charged, attractive state where there's sexual energy, there's desire, there's connection, and you can feel it physically in your body. And when there's low polarity, because there can be boredom, or there can be, a negative energy, or attention is moving away from the connection, right? And so everyone knows this in dating. With early on, there's high polarity, but polarity is actually an art, it's a science. And so as a man who's dominantly in a masculine polarity, which I think majority of men are, it requires being decisive, being direct, creating a container, using your word, being in integrity, and physically penetrating the energy of conversation, of choosing where to go to eat, of transportation, logistics, and also in the bedroom, obviously. and vice versa on the other side for the feminine, is being receptive, being willing to be led, sharing desire and emotion in the moment, and being open to love, and being, your wild true self, not changing yourself, but being open to being the magnetic, to being in the receptive role. And that just creates even more desire. And then it just creates a positive feedback loop that intensifies. So I think a lot of couples or people dating, they think this stuff, doesn't happen to them, or that it's just something, spiritual people do, or people doing yoga or drinking green juice or whatever, people who read David Data, which I think is an important place to start. But this is very literal in the bedroom, in your relationship, for long-term emotional sexual health. And it's not only that, there's polarity in your business, with money, with how you show up in your mission. So all the same things that are happening with a woman from a man's perspective are happening at work, are happening with your family, are happening with the world. And this is a natural law, the law of gender, the law of polarity. I mean, it applies to almost everything in life. And obviously, when the masculine and the feminine come together, no matter what gender bodies they are, that's the ground zero where you can experience this directly.
Yeah, sometimes it's just so humbling to be reminded that we are a part of nature. What makes us think that we are different or separate from how nature operates? So understanding these dynamics of the masculine and feminine energies is like driving a car but with premium gasoline versus someone that's trying to make things work, make a marriage work or a relationship work without gasoline in the car. So life just becomes more fun and easy, I would say, like easeful, when we understand these principles behind it. So Kevin, is there anything specifically that you can share with our listeners right now? Any men that are tuning in and they're just feeling like such a resonance with everything that you're talking about, but maybe they're kind of on the verge, they're hesitant, they don't really know where to begin. I know you mentioned David Data's work in his books, but where else can someone start on this journey?
Yeah, I mean, I have a course that's designed all around this. It's called Masculine Mastery, and it goes through the 4 archetypes of King, Warrior, Magician, and Lover, and it covers all this stuff. I also have all my book recommendations in there, and it's very simple. It's about informing yourself, number one. It's about creating training and discipline, practicing it. And then once you've done that, you embody it. So you start to actually live it in all areas of your life, not just when you're going on a date, not just when you want to have sex. So the 3 books I always recommend to men that will just change your life are Iron John, which is a seminal book on men's work, Way of the Superior Man by David Data, which is a very deep manual on polarity that got a lot of people into this. And then I would go to, Multi-Orgasmic Man by Montauk Chia, if you want to do the physical practices of how to, physically work with your body and your cock to actually be able to do semen retention. And the last one that I'll throw in, that's the deeply mythological and archetypal stuff, which is my favorite, is King, Warrior, Magician, Lover by Moore and Gillette. That book will give you a broad overview of how men mature, why we need initiation, why we need men, and how to treat your queen as a king and also live your purpose.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was taking mental notes as well. And Kevin, how can our listeners stay connected with you?
Yeah, I mean, my name, Kevin Orosz, OROSZ.com, has all my work. I'm on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I post a lot of videos on these topics. I've led a lot of men's groups and men's retreats. I have an upcoming course for like high performing men in tech and crypto, and also entrepreneurs who want to really do the high level work of sexual mastery, career and wealth alignment, and mastering their marriage or their relationship through high level polarity techniques and arts. And so you can find all that on my website as well.
Awesome. And for anyone listening, make sure to stay connected with Kevin. I'll include all of the links in the same email that this interview went out to. And be sure to share inside our Facebook group as well. What are some of the biggest aha moments for you? Anything that you took away from this amazing conversation? And on behalf of all of our listeners, Kevin, I just want to say thank you so much for all the work that you do, for the presence that you bring to this planet. And I'm just so honored to have you today and learn so much from you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. And thank you everyone that tuned in today. It was such an honor to have you all join us. And until next time, see you.